Over the last few weeks in the NBA, the Brooklyn Nets have been the most interesting team to talk about and the team that everyone is watching. We know that a few weeks ago they pulled off one of the biggest blockbuster trades that we've seen in a while in the NBA, trading for James Harden in a huge 4-team deal that sent a lot of first-round draft picks to the Houston Rockets, along with Victor Oladipo from the Pacers, sent Karis LeVert over to the Indiana Pacers, sent Jared Allen and Taurean Prince to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and of course sent James Harden to the Brooklyn Nets. And as we know, we pretty much as NBA fans, right when this trade happened, considered the Brooklyn Nets as big championship contenders, if not championship favorites, because they formed a big three with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and of course, James Harden. 3 superstars on the same team, and a lot of fans considered this team a super team right away once that trade happened. But as we know, especially right now, they're in a little bit of a slump, and this team has a lot of flaws. And in today's video, I'm going to be going through the big reasons why I don't think this Brooklyn Nets team this season will even make the NBA Finals, and why they won't even make it out of the East. As you guys know, last night we saw the Brooklyn Nets lose to the Detroit Pistons, and while they didn't have Kevin Durant because of COVID protocols, for a team that's considered a super team, Kyrie Irving and James Harden should easily be able to beat the team that is probably the worst in the league right now. They're on a 3-game losing streak and are currently 14-12 in the Eastern Conference, and I don't think this team has what it takes to make the NBA Finals, and today I'm going to be going through the big reasons why I think that. So let me start off by saying the first time that I watched the Brooklyn Nets play as a team with KD, Harden, and Kyrie, I was actually extremely impressed with the way that their offense flowed and how all 3 of them were buying into winning with a certain offensive system. And I didn't think at first that this would work with 3 ball-dominant guards, especially with Harden, who's been playing iso ball for the last 6 years with the Houston Rockets. He, Kyrie, and KD are all buying into the offensive system, and I was saying when I watched that first game when they played together that I've never seen James Harden do things like pass the ball and then cut to the basket. Like, I'm not even joking. This guy literally has played iso ball for the last 6 years, and it was impressive to see how he and Kyrie were buying into the offensive system, and both of them are still going to be able to average around 25 to 30 points per game playing this way on offense. I still think the Brooklyn Nets probably have the best offense in the league, even though I don't think they're going to make the NBA Finals, and the big reason for that is obviously their defense. The Brooklyn Nets as a team currently ranked 27th in the league in terms of defensive efficiency, which is 4th last. They ranked 2nd last in the league, so 29th in the league in points per game given up at 118.2. That's incredible. I mean, they're scoring 120 per game, but if they keep up this rate, almost giving up as many points as they score as a dominant offense, trying to make a finals, that's just unacceptable for a team that is supposed to be of this caliber. And there's multiple reasons for why they don't have a good defense, and while they will never have a good defense this season unless they make more changes with trades. First of all, they don't have a defensive coach. Steve Nash, as we know, as a player, was a very offensive player, a great playmaker, but never really played fantastic defense, and he's not coaching his team in a defensive way. He's never going to be able to figure out a good defensive system that works efficiently and effectively with this team, especially with the players that he has. And this is the second point that I'm getting to here. I can't really think of a guy on the Brooklyn Nets that is a serious over-average defender and has proven it time and time again. Kevin Durant is probably an over-average defender, but I actually think he's a little bit overrated on defense and would probably consider his defense around average in the league. That might be considered a hot take, but I don't think it's that great watching him play night in and night out. His defense is probably around average in my opinion. Jeff Green too is probably around an average defender, but then you look at the guys on this team like Kyrie, Harden, DeAndre Jordan, Joe Harris, and really all of those guys, I seriously consider them liabilities on defense. I mean, I know that Steve Nash isn't a defensive coach like I just mentioned, but if he has these players, he's not going to be able to do anything with this system. DeAndre Jordan's been horrible this season defensively. He gets a few blocks here and there, but he can't guard the pick and roll at all. Kyrie has always been bad on defense throughout his career. Joe Harris is really never going to be able to keep someone in front of him consistently on the perimeter. And then James Harden has straight up just made this team's defense worse. There was a point last year when the Rockets were buying into small ball that I actually thought James Harden was an okay defender. He was using his strength to his advantage, he could guard guys down low, and he was buying in on defense with the Houston Rockets. But this season, he's gotten a little bit out of shape, and since he's left the Houston Rockets, their defense has gotten tremendously better, and since he's joined the Brooklyn Nets, their defense has gotten tremendously worse. This guy is not a good defender at all, and he's proving it with the way he's affecting teams, and if this team's defense keeps up like this, they're not going to have a chance at making even the NBA Finals. And I think the Brooklyn Nets, even though they've made a ton of great moves to make this team a so-called championship contender, they need to make more moves to get this team better defensively. While I do think offense is a little bit more important than defense in basketball in general, and I think that really when you look at it deeply, it is technically more valuable. When we look back at past champions of the NBA, it's really proven, especially in the last few years, that you really need at least a top 10 defense in the league to succeed at a high level. I mean, defense wins championships. You can't have a bad defensive team, let alone this bad, and expect to even come close to making the NBA Finals. Let's look back at past champions. We've got the Lakers last season, who easily had a top 5 defense, my 2019 Toronto Raptors, who definitely had a top 5 defense, and the next year even had the best defense in the league. We look at the Warriors, who always had a great defense, a great defensive system, led by Draymond Green and a guy like Klay Thompson. And for all of those championships, their offense was what won it for them, but their defense was severely underrated and definitely, I'd say, top 5 in the league. We look at the Cavs, who had a great defense in 2016, led by LeBron James. And then we look at teams like the 2013 and 2012 Miami Heat and the 2014 San Antonio Spurs, who also had great defensive coaching, great defensive systems, and great defensive players. Basically, all of these teams that have won championships in the last 8 to 10 years have had top 10 defenses in the league. I'm going to say it again. Defense wins championships, and if the Brooklyn Nets want to seriously contend and win a championship with this team that they have right now, KD, Harden, and Kyrie is great for a super team big three, but only offensively. This team needs to improve with their defense, and I think it starts with their front office because they don't have the players to do it right now. So obviously the Nets' main problem here is defense. I think another problem for them right now is depth, and I'm not talking about depth as in their 8th and 9th and 10th man rotation guys. And if they can run a 10-man rotation, I really don't care about that much, because in the playoffs, teams are just going to be running 7 to 8-man rotations anyway. I'm talking about the production from their 4th and 5th guys, other than KD, Harden, and Kyrie. Guys like Joe Harris, Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot, DeAndre Jordan aren't really good enough as 4th, 5th, and 6th players on a team that's contending for a championship. When we look at this team before the season, they had one of the best benches in the league in some people's opinion, and pretty good role players like Spencer Dinwiddie, Caris LeVert, and Jarrett Allen. We know that Caris LeVert and Jarrett Allen were traded away in the James Harden trade, and Spencer Dinwiddie has unfortunately torn his ACL and is out for the season. And a lot of this can't be controlled by the Brooklyn Nets, and they did go all in on getting James Harden with Caris LeVert and Jarrett Allen. But I just think that, especially in the playoffs, this team is going to have some contributions on the offensive end other than KD, Harden, and Kyrie. And while their offense isn't their problem, I can see the depth at positions in the rotation, like the 4th and 5th spot, being a bit of a problem for them going down the stretch of the season. This is a little problem for them, but obviously my main point of this video is that their main problem is defense, and they have to get it at least to an average level in the league if they want to make the finals. So if I don't have the Nets coming out of the East, then who do I have? A question you might be wondering, since the East is a little bit inconsistent right now, and my answer to that would be 2 teams. I'm really high on both the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks this season to come out of the East and represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. For the Celtics, they're a very well-rounded team led by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, 2 very good rising players who are very good on both ends, good rebounders, and can score basically at all three levels in the court. And then really for this team, I believe in their offensive system. They're great at three-point shooting. Their defense is very good, especially when it comes to the playoffs. They're coached well in that area, and overall a more polished team than the Brooklyn Nets. Despite being only 12-10 this season, I think they will improve on that because I believe in their defense. I believe in their offense. Their big problem here is depth, but again, in the playoffs, they're only going to be running an 8-man rotation, and I think if their 8-man rotation is playing like they are right now defensively, I think they could make the NBA Finals. The other one is the Milwaukee Bucks, who this season are looking like a really good three-point shooting team, which last season was holding them back. They didn't surround Giannis with good enough three-point shooting. Giannis is still playing pretty well this year. They have 3 all-defensive caliber players in Giannis, Drew Holiday, and Brook Lopez. Can be one of the best defensive teams in the league without a doubt, and as they continue to communicate with each other and get better on the court, this team could be a finals contender as well. So right now, I would take the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks over the Brooklyn Nets, and they are my favorites to come out of the East this year. So there you have it. That is the end of today's video. That's why I don't think the Brooklyn Nets are championship contenders right now with the current team that they have. I think maybe if they made some more moves to improve their defense drastically, that's when they could become championship contenders, truly. But with their defense right now, I just don't see it. Like I mentioned, I see teams like the Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks being favorites out of the East so far this season, and I think we could see them representing the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. Thank you all for watching this video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my new NBA videos on this channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next video.